A much needed win for the Philadelphia 76ers, but of course, it doesn't come without the dramatics. We're going to break it all down coming up.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey. I'm Kayla Santiago. We're going to dive right into the action in just a moment. But before that, you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Make sure you visit FanDuel.com to get started. And be sure to check out the 76ers newsletter, the free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. You can get all your fix and all things Philadelphia 76ers. So make sure you check it out today. Once again, it's a free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. So the Philadelphia 76ers, they come out with a huge win against the Spurs, 111-106. And it was a big one because Joel Embiid ended up getting ejected in the game, and then Tyrese Maxey officially had to take over. Tyrese Maxey Magic. We'll get to that in just a moment. But what's going on? What's the air in Philadelphia here, Keith? Because it was a few days ago for the Philadelphia Eagles that C.J. Gardner-Johnson got ejected from the game against the Commanders. And then the very next day, Joel Embiid gets ejected as well, going into the face of the official. 2 technical fouls. He's out. What do you make of all this? Joel Embiid coming back and then this all happening as well.
You know what? I think it was a bad look. I mean, I know people are saying, and everyone, they have their opinion, and a lot of people felt like it was a bad call. But the reason why I feel like it was a bad look and a bad situation is because it looked like Joel lost some control, right? And it's not only was it an official, it was a female official, right? And you hate to see something like that. And I get it. It was one of those things where he drives the lane. He collides with Wembenyama, Victor Wembanyama, Wemby, and he's called for a charge. It looked like it could have been a blocking foul, but you can also see where the position that she was in, that she felt like it was a charge. And then B goes over to her. He's trying to explain himself, and he's a big guy, and you can tell that while he's over top of her, she's doing a technical thing, and then next thing you know, all I know is she's walking away as they tell you to do, and he's following her, and he has to be separated from her. He actually shoved somebody out the way and did this and that. And to me, I get the CJ Gardner Johnson thing when he got ejected, but with this one, it was kind of sort of like it was just a bad look. It really was. I mean, it was just a bad look. It was worse than the football thing. So to me, that was the biggest thing that I took away from it was, and I get it, you're frustrated, but it wasn't a good look in my eyes. It just wasn't.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is if you're Joel Embiid, you just can't do that. And once again, you understand where he's coming from, the situation of being frustrated, but then to take it to that next point and have it go further and further, you are the franchise player once again. You are leading by example. That's not what you want everybody on your team doing it. And there can be frustration in the lack of calls going your way and the inconsistency of how the game was kind of called throughout up until that point early on in the contest. But at the same time, you can't be going after an official like that. They're going to tee you up right away. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get thrown out of the game. What happens if this comes around when it's a big time game? It's a play-in game, and Joel Embiid kind of just loses it out there, and then all of a sudden he gets ejected, and you need him to win a big game in a big spot. This is not something you want to see from your franchise player, and especially, Keith, I think after not seeing this big three play together that often, play throughout all fourth quarters, not seeing Joel Embiid out there playing often. And I understand once again his frustration, but you want to see Joel Embiid out there throughout the entirety of the game, not when this season already he's been struggling to go game after game. And now you have a situation where it's not the injury, it's about him getting ejected from the contest. Just not a good look. I have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, they just have problems. But I mean, the thing about it is, we got to talk about this whole game was just wacky from the start. I mean, you talk about You got Andre Drummond who received a technical early in the first half. I mean, like in the second quarter, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like he gets up in Wemby's face and he calls him soft, but he got a technical because he shoved him to the ground twice, knocked him over twice, and then the third, then he gets in his face, he calls him soft, and then all of a sudden it's like, did you shove him a third time? And then come to find out he stepped on his foot. And then they eject him for that because they felt like he shoved them. And then next thing you know, they say that Wemby was flopping. So then Tyrese Maxey gets to shoot a foul shot. And then they're like, oh, no, 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 no. We looked at it and he actually stepped on his foot and we're taking the flopping call away. So the whole thing was just a wacky game. It just was bad. And like, yeah, Joel, like I get it. If you're the Sixers, you do want him to be in the game the whole time. But to me, it just looks like it's frustration is mounting. I mean, we talk about the incident that he had beforehand, the 3-game suspension. We talk about how he, refuses to speak to some media members now. To me, it looks like a guy who knows that his knee is bothering him and he's just extremely frustrated. Extremely frustrated.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that I think are agreeing with you on that one. So let us know in the comments what you think about this. Now, I will say, as an official and somebody has officiated in the past, that is not something that you want to do. Go back and forth on a call, make it seem like you're not fully confident. Now, granted, that's why they had the video monitor. That's why they look at things. That's why they review things. You have that at the highest of high levels. But when you're calling a game so inconsistent and then it starts brewing and brewing and brewing, once again, I can understand the frustration coming from Joel Embiid. Hey, what did you guys just overturn from Andre Drummond? And now Wemby all of a sudden is getting a charge on me? No, he wasn't. It looks like it was a block there, and it probably was the wrong call. But at the same time, you have to control that. You have to wind that down. That's who you are. You're the franchise player. And I don't want to hear that, oh, well, he did that. His knee's banged up. He's not playing well, all these things. He has been playing pretty decent as of late, but come on, Joel. You're the franchise player. You're supposed to be the leader of this team. You can't just be doing that and going out there and having this happen time after time. I'm curious if he will play on Christmas Day now against the Boston Celtics after only playing a short amount in the game last night. But I have to agree with you there. I get the frustration from the officials and everything like that. How does Nick Nurse and the rest of the team, in your opinion, Keith, when you've been able to be around them, practice and everything like that, kind of see and look at this outburst? And B did come out at the end of the game, out of the tunnel, out of the locker room, and kind of congratulated Tyrese Maxey. So it looks like that might have been a positive thing. But you have to think the players are thinking, why is he putting himself in this position?
I mean, some of them have to. I mean, because they're looking at it like, dude, you're going to hurt us. Your actions are actually hindering us. Now, of course, Maxie is saying he didn't see it, but then when you look at the video, you see Maxie standing up, right, like on the bench after the fact. Like, okay, all right, I understand. And then Nick Nurse said he didn't see it either. One of those things. So, right now publicly, you can see that guys are trying to protect Embiid because they didn't know if he was going to get an additional suspension or anything at that particular time. But if you're a team, you're looking at it like, dude, you need to calm down because we need you. We were fortunate enough to hold on to this game and win without you, but we need you to be able to play, right? And so, there has to be, one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of the veterans had a talk with him, like, yo, man, what was that? Like, you just can't do that moving forward. I mean, nah. So, no, but again, with publicly, they're all was like, yeah, it was a bad call, it was this and that. But again, regardless, like you said, regardless of if the call was wrong or not, it depends on what angle it is. You got to leave it up to the coach to basically say, let's challenge this thing and take it from there. You don't go up there and you don't lose your cool, and especially lose your cool against a female ref. You just don't do that.
We don't like to see that. I agree with you on that one. But at the same time, this is something that it continues to be a problem a little bit for Joel Embiid. When he comes back, he can dominate, but his availability hasn't been there. And that's the last thing you want to see, even though the game was very tough officiated. And from that standpoint, for the players
There's
looking at
no
that.
excuse. Like I get it. Like
There's not, but
everybody was saying. I know, but like in the arena, everybody was yelling at the ref. They were doing that. There's no excuse for that. And then even like the thing is, well, we got to realize they did go to the monitor. They got stuff corrected. I also think what happened is the Secaucus, they basically called them and say, hey, y'all got this call wrong. We got to get it corrected right now. Quick in a hurry. And then the one thing is, like, it was a lot of things that was going on. I will say this, like, Drummond is lucky because, basically you get a technical foul. Wemby is over there talking to the ref saying, hey, you see this guy keeps shoving me. And you're up in Wemby's face in front of the ref saying, you're soft, you're soft, you're soft. Well, next thing you know, when Wemby falls down, yeah, they're going to assume that you knocked them down, right? So, I think that, yeah, I think that when you see how a game is officiated that way, you got to make smarter plays on everyone's behalf, right? They just have to. And so, yeah, I get it. It was bad, some of the calls, but they corrected them. And you can't allow that to keep driving you. You have to make smarter plays. You just have to.
don't play expecting a foul or expecting the whistle to go your way. There's a lot of times in games that calls might have been wrong, but you got to play through them. At the end of the day, they won the game, but it wasn't because of all that madness happening early on in the contest. It was another star player that was able to keep his cool throughout the entirety of the contest, and we are going to talk on that in just a moment. And with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms do apply for product specific disclosures. Make sure you visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Maxey Magic, I'm going to call it a huge night for Tyrese Maxey, able to keep his cool, do his thing, and win this game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Tyrese Maxey, I mean, just a class act, stand up, 32 points, 10 rebounds as well. So Tyrese in this game, he needed to step up when it mattered most for this team. What do you take from his performance and his maturity really throughout the season, as he's had to be more of the leader at some times and at some points when Joel hasn't been able to be?
Yeah, tonight's performance. I mean, he stepped up. I mean, Tyrese Maxey. It was a game where he ended up with 32 points. He made 12 of 25 shots. He was 5 for 11 from three. He had 10 rebounds. He had 8 assists. He almost had a triple double. He also had 3 steals. So the thing is, the good part about it was when Joel went out, they needed someone to step up. They had other guys who played well also in the second half. But Tyrese had 21 points on 8 for 15 shot shooting. He scored 12 of their 27 points in the fourth quarter. At one stretch, he had 6 consecutive points, and that stretch came within the final minute of the game. So, it was just one of those things where somebody had to step up, and he did. I mean, second half, he also had 2 steals, he had 5 assists, 5 rebounds. So when you ask what do I make of it, it was just, he just he willed the 76ers to win. And the thing about it is he came down at one point, he made a clutch basket to give them a lead, no, a little cushion. And then he comes down and grabs a defensive rebound, gets fouled. He goes up there, he splits it. He makes the first one. He misses the second one. Kelly Oubre gets the put back and scores. And at that point, it was game over. But Tyrese just stepped up and did what he had to do. It was a great game. I mean, for a guy who has been struggling shooting the ball as of late, right? But been scoring a lot of points. he was extremely efficient in that second half. So, what I make of it is, what he stepped up and he willed them to win.
And when you look at it, everybody knows that Tyrese Maxey, of course, is a big future of the Philadelphia 76ers, but you didn't necessarily expect him to be this guy stepping up in big moments as a vocal leader, as he was earlier in the year that he had to be, and call out Joel Embiid in a meeting, kind of step up in this game when Joel gets ejected out in this game as well. So when you look at this situation, Tyrese Maxey is really stepping up in big ways. And it's really good to see Paul George also adding 19 and 9 as well. And I think the biggest frustration, though, you look at, Keith, with the Philadelphia 76ers right now, and they are coming off a win, 111-106 against the Spurs. I know that. But at the same time, this big three hasn't been able to mesh. And it's things like this with Joel Embiid getting injected, him being hurt, him being out. Tyrese Maxey has had to step up, but then sometimes he has to take a step back when Joel Embiid comes back into the game. So the chemistry just hasn't been able to really connect at all throughout the season, and we're already almost into the new year.
Yeah, but I also think that has to do with Joel being such a vocal point. Like we talked about it before. Um, and and I understand, I get what you're saying, and it is like it's something that they got to work on. But at the same time, it's like they're figuring like we're going to score 110 points a game, right? So how are we going to get this 110? Like you might have had 30 the last game, but you can only get 20 this game. You know, the problem I think that Tyrese has been having is that, he's just been trying too hard and he's going like 100 miles an hour, right? At times. And, he's getting like bad shots and or tough shots because of that. I think that when Joel comes back, when Joel plays, he plays well. The person who's been struggling the most has been, um, Paul George. Like even in that second half, where Tyrese Maxey shot 8 for 15, PG was 3 for 10. So I mean he did have 10 points, but he only shot 30%. But so I think Maxey is good, and like what he did is he showed us what he can do. The thing is, though, I'll be honest with you. The good part about this one for Maxey is a lot of times Maxey will will the Sixers back without Embiid, but a lot of times it's great performances and losses. This time
Right.
it was a great performance to will them to win. And, it's kind of like you need that as a confidence boost moving forward to know that this guy can do it against a quality team. Because while we're talking about this is only their second win against a team with a winning record. So this
Mhm.
is a big moment for them.
Yeah, and it's not the Hornets where they were able to get 4 of those wins against as well throughout this season. So the Philadelphia 76ers, I look at it right now, and we've kind of been touching on a lot of Joel getting ejected and our thoughts on that. They did come out with the victory 111-106. It's not only a much needed win to figure out, okay, Tyrese Maxey can elevate, play at a high level, and get the victory. Also, they play the Celtics next coming up on Christmas Day. So that's going to be a tough matchup within itself. The Cavs was a really tough matchup as well. So now you look at it and you say, okay, you got that middle game there. Where can you take this next? Will Joel Embiid be in there for that Christmas Day game? We will have to wait and see. But this is
He'll
a
play.
very good win
He'll
for the
play.
Philadelphia. He should, right? There's no reason he should be out because he
Yeah,
barely
he's gonna
played in
play.
this
He
game.
gotta play. Yeah,
He has
believe
to.
me.
Otherwise,
Yeah, he's playing.
otherwise, we're really going to be in flames here. It won't be a good holiday for anybody involved in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean he'll play because I mean think about it. Like when you listen to the conversations that the referees had and all that, they're doing everything in their power to make sure that this guy plays. The NBA needs him a marquee game. If Joel doesn't play the six, I can see them getting fined saying, "Hey, what's wrong? The star player has to play." Joel is definitely playing on Christmas.
They made the matchup for a reason. They want to see Joel Embiid against the Celtics on the floor. That's why they put it there. So we will wait and see as well. But some injuries also kind of brewing for the Philadelphia 76ers. I know there's more that happened later in the game. And that's also why it's still impressive that they were able to come out on top last night against the Spurs. We'll touch on that and a little bit more in just a moment. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play by play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com. And some action going on for Christmas Day in terms of the NFL. The Ravens are the favorites right now on the Texans at -5.5. And if you like that line, make sure you head over to FanDuel right now to place all of your bets. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Be sure to visit FanDuel today to place all of those bets. You can do it on the NFL, the NBA, and NCAA basketball, of course, MLB, and everything in between, NHL, even more. So make sure you head over to FanDuel.com today, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so some injuries brewing for the Philadelphia 76ers. Andre Drummond with a left big toe contusion. He did not return in the contest. KJ Martin, left foot soreness, will not return either. What did the team make of this? Was there any conversation after the ball game, Keith, about this going on? Because you have Joel Embiid going out, and then these two guys go out. Andre Drummond was already somewhat ejected. Then they said that Wemby flopped, and then he ended up going out of the game. So what was the conversation around these injuries, if there was any? And once again, what do you make of this right now? Because you're looking at the 76ers being able to really wheel out a very, very good win with this happening in addition to Joel being ejected.
There wasn't a lot of conversation after the game about it. A lot of the conversation was pertaining to Joel, his actions, and things like that. Matter of fact, Drummond and KJ Martin weren't even in the locker room, weren't even available to speak after the game. But the thing about it is, when you look at it, we're talking about Drummond, who's the backup center. We're talking about KJ Martin, who's been the starting power forward now. A team where Eric Gordon is already hurt. A team where Jared McCain could be out for the season, right? So we're talking about they're losing a lot of depth, a lot. Joel Embiid still has the sinus fracture. He still has the bum knee. So, this could be something that they need to hurry up and pay. They got to pay attention to closely because, right now we're looking at, a starter in your backup center. And then you also have, the Eric missing the game. So it's just, as far as depth, they don't have a lot of depth at all. And then you're losing these guys. And this could be something that could harm them. Now, again, we're saying this right now. You have to get reevaluated tomorrow, and then we'll take it from there. But if I'm Nick Nurse, I'm like, why me? Like, it's always something happening. There's always someone getting injured, and that's a problem because this team can never get healthy and do right. And right now they need Drummond. Like, who is going to be the backup center? Like, I like a Dembona, but right now you're looking at Yabusele as the best option, and you want to get him to play power forward. So it's just a lot of things that's going on right now, and that's disrupting this team.
Yeah, and it's Mbona not truly ready yet to be behind Joel Embiid. Not even that, but when Joel Embiid doesn't play a back-to-back, then it's going to be, okay, do you call it a Dembona? No, they would have to go to Yabusele as that next option because Bona's still kind of getting into all the flows of being an NBA player and everything like that. But I look at this too. In addition, KJ Martin is somebody that we touched on saying, do not trade him, do not let him go. He has been doing so well for the Philadelphia 76ers with the minutes that he's been able to get. I'm not saying he's a top player, but he's made the most of his minutes. So this definitely hurts not only that backup center position, and that's the one we really look at because, the unknown status of Joel Embiid on back-to-backs, so on and so forth, but also somebody like KJ Martin that can come in, that gives you a little bit of that spark. Now you also lose that going forward. So it's the big blow that happened in that Spurs game for the Philadelphia 76ers. But my biggest takeaway is that for the first time this season, they were able to have some big blows and then come out the other side and come out on top against a pretty decent team in the NBA. I mean, Keith, we really haven't seen that all year. Tyrese Maxey, a big reason for it. And you alluded to it earlier. He's been able to do that in games where they almost came back, but they fell short. This time around, the big fella goes out, Drummond goes out, KJ Martin goes out, Tyrese Maxey elevates this team to victory. and now they're with the supporting cast. And this is the first time we're really seeing that this season with this core group.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, the real test is like this team was good. Don't get me wrong, the Spurs were good, but now we're going to see it the next game. We're going to see what it is because we look at the Spurs record. They're 15-13. The Sixers are now 2-13 against teams with winning records, or 15-14. 15-14. I want to see what they can do if they can do this against the Boston Celtics. Because when they went to Cleveland, they lost by 27 points. So I want to see what they can do. And you look at it and like this, the thing is, Harrison Barnes, he was 0 for 5 shooting, 0 for 5, in all threes. You look at Chris Paul, Chris Paul, was okay. You look at Devin Vassell, he had 15 points, but he was a minus 17. The Sixers will tell you, I mean, Sixers did a pretty good job on Wemby overall. He had 26 points, but he shot 9 for 19. So they turned him into a 3-point shooter. Now he was good from there, but he was just bad from inside the 3-point line. But my main question is, this is good, but let's just see what y'all going to do against the Boston Celtics.
Listen, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, and I know a lot of people are going to say, why are you so negative? And Philadelphia 76ers won a good game. I think against the Celtics, it's a scene for trouble for the Philadelphia 76ers because even though it looks like everybody's going to be there in terms of the big three, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, I mean, this team hasn't shown us too much when all three of those guys are on the floor. And now you're playing the Boston Celtics on Christmas Day. I don't know. I think for the NBA, they picked it to be a close game based off what happened a little bit last year. Them getting Paul George was the really big reason too. But at the same time, if I'm the NBA, I'm looking at this matchup now and I'm saying, I don't know if this is one you wanted to schedule for everybody to see during the holidays on Christmas Day while they're opening up their presents, because I just think the Celtics right now, they're a little bit too stacked. You saw what they couldn't do against the Cavs. Now having Joel Embiid in that lineup can make a little bit of a difference, but I mean, I think the Celtics team is just a little bit too tough for the Philadelphia 76ers. They proved a lot of good things last night, but the Celtics are on a different level.
Yeah, they are. They're on a different level, and that's the reason why it's important for Joel Embiid to play. Because if he doesn't, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch it. Yeah, the Celtics are on a different level. I mean, the Celtics, are the best team in the league. I know that Cleveland has the best record, but the Celtics are a team that's used to going deep in the playoffs. They used to going to NBA finals. And I think that they're one of those teams that are basically on cruise control until the playoffs start. So, yeah, I mean, they're a team that I don't Sixers are going to be favored or anything, or I mean, it could is a rivalry game, so you never
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, this was a game where it was a young team. Harrison Barnes struggled mightily. You know, the scary part about it, as much as we want to brag about Tyrese Maxey, and it was great, they blew a 15-point lead, a 15-point lead. So there's one of those things that they still have the same problems that they had before, but they were able to hold on. So it's going to be a tough one going to Boston because Boston will hit threes, and that's perimeter defense is one of many weaknesses that the Sixers have.
Yeah, I mean, holding leads has not been their strength for as long as we can remember. You look at that Hornets game too throughout this year. They were up by 23 at one point. That lead went down to 6 with 7:52 left to go in the fourth quarter. So if they want any chance to beat the Boston Celtics, they actually have to live up to that lead. And Joel Embiid absolutely has to play in that game if I'm Nick Nurse and the Philadelphia 76ers. And hey, the NBA, they need him to play too because that's a watchable game if he plays in the contest, and we do expect him to. Well, the Philadelphia 76ers, not all doom and gloom, and Tyrese Maxey able to come out there in a big way with the supporting cast as well. Amidst all the chaos happening last night against the Spurs, they come out on top 111-106. Well, thank you all so much for tuning on to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.